Hello, thank you for tuning into my channel. Today we're going to talk about expanding your zigzag quilt to increase the variety of your quilt designs. So if you want to know how to go from this design, to this design, please stay tuned. I want to start by telling you that I am a very visual quilt designer. I need to see my my finished quilt or what it's going to look like even before I start quilting a single stitch. So I usually make these designs, and I have a notebook full of them that show what I think my quilt is going to look like before I start. So these are two examples of my designs, and these are basically what we're going to use to discuss. So here's one of them. This is my Chevron quilt. I have made other videos about this quilt, and this is the design that it started with. Then I took the leftovers for that quilt, and I made a different quilt top with using the same fabrics, just I changed the design just a little bit. So we'll go into more detail about how I did that. Let's start with your basic zigzag quilt design. This is a table that I created in Microsoft Word, and this is how I make my my zigzag quilts, especially because it shows all of the half square triangles and where they're going to be. Also, it helps me to figure out how much fabric I'm going to need when it comes time to purchase fabric for a quilt. So basically what you'll do to get this design is you start in, like right here, I'll start at the top left corner and then go diagonally down and then diagonally up on the next square. And you just repeat that pattern depending on how big you want your chevron. So it'll have to be at least 2 down and 2 up to get a decent sized chevron. Otherwise you just make a little, I don't think it'll work. So this is just a basic quilt design, and so you do it for this one. I start at the top of every square in the row. So of course starting here, down 2, then up diagonally 2, then down and then up, and so on. So I'm going to finish this center line, down 2, and then up 2, down 2, and up 2. And so once you decided on your colors, it'll be easy because you'll just color in between the lines that you drew. You won't color with the lines of the squares. You'll color in between the lines that you drew, which gives you your half square triangle units. So you can see that really clearly on the Chevron quilt. Okay, so here I started, this is like the middle of a line, so to speak, or middle of a zigzag. So this one goes down 1 and then up 2, down 2, and so on. Okay, but you can clearly see that the red zigzag, it basically takes up 1 row. Okay, and then the white 1 row and the black 1 row, and so on. Okay, now let's talk about expanding that design. When you want to create a wider chevron, what you'll do is, instead of, like at the bottom, instead of creating your diagonal lines for each square individually, you'll create it for, in this example, every other square. So if you look here at the top, you'll see that it's the same length of zigzag. It's still 2 squares long. Okay, but instead of starting every row, you go every other row. So you see that this chevron is much wider. Okay, and so the difference between the skinny one and the big one is that this one is going to have empty squares, which adds to the variety of your quilt. So let's look at that in the other red and black and white quilt. Okay, so here you can clearly see that the zigzags are 2 squares long. Okay, and since it's all colored in, you can see that you'll have half square triangle here, half square triangle here, and here, but you also have 2 regular squares. And so that helps you when you get ready to cut. You know that you'll be preparing for half square triangles, but also for squares. And then you see the same thing here in the white pattern and in the black pattern. So let's see what that'll look like in a quilt. I've taken some half square triangles that I'm using from another project, or I should say half square triangle blocks that I'm using for another project, and I wanted to show how to expand the chevrons once you have all the pieces cut out and sewn together. So this is the one skinny chevron, and you see the turquoise zigzag, and then you see cream colored zigzag. So let's see how we would expand it. So what I'm doing is I'm just pulling these apart a little bit, and so it will take a little bit of twisting and turning, so please bear with me. So I'm going to put 2 squares here, and then I'm going to have to turn this one to really show how wide it would be. Another square would go near the top. And then so you see the way that it's forming here. And so it takes just a little bit of finagling, but of course if you have your diagram can help you navigate through the squares and the half square triangle block. So here's part of the zigzag, and then the other one would be a little bit wider too. So, all right, so now let's go ahead and make the turquoise one. And so I have it here, and I'm just adding the squares in now because you see that the half square triangle units cover that part. And then here, here, and then I'm going to add 2 more squares down near the bottom. So you see how cool that expanded zigzag pattern is, and it takes just a few more, it makes it a little bit wider this way as well, horizontally, as well as taller, but it's just the addition of those squares that gives you a little bit more variety and a few more things to play with. So here's just a small portion of the Chevrons quilt, and you can see that these rows are very skinny. If I zoom in, you can see, let's see, here's one half square triangle, here's another one, 3 and 4, and this one leads down to the letters. So, but you know, you can keep looking and you see it's all half square triangles that make up this quilt. And here is an example of the expanded chevron that I've been working on. This is one of my quilt tops, and if you look closely you can see that there are squares here and then the half square triangle units below. So the chevron, it makes a bigger, wider pattern that is a little bit more striking, especially when you look at all of these colors together. And I'll show you what this looks like next to the other one so you can really see the contrast. Now here's a picture of both of the quilts. This is, of course, on your left is just the quilt top, but both of them side by side, so you can really see how much wider this one, the zigzags on this one are from this one. And again, if I zoom in, you can see there in this white here, you see there's half square triangle here, here, and here, and then there are 2 squares, solid white squares here, and then if you go down to here and here, and so on. So experiment with that, expanding your zigzag quilt designs, and let me know what you think. Please thumbs up this video and share it and comment and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Bye.